Hello and welcome to the Tiny Human Knits podcast. My name is Laura and I'm coming to you from Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, where I live with my boyfriend, our cat, and our rabbit. You can find me pretty much everywhere online as Tiny Human Knits, and I will have links to all of my social media and everything else I talk about in the description box below this video. Hello and welcome, or welcome back. It has been a month since I last posted anything here. I tried to film an episode about a week and a half ago, and it was 15 minutes long because I had literally nothing to show for my time, because the beginning of August was very, very busy. For those of you who do not know, I am a predominantly self-striping yarn dyer out of New Brunswick, Canada. And for most of you who probably already know, the new tariff situation with the United States kicked in last week, and it's chaos, and there's a lot of businesses that are very worried about being able to maintain. I'm not separate from that. I am also just sort of hoping for the best. But I wanted to have one last update that I was able to ship to my United States customers before that happened. So basically the better half of August was just a mad rush to try to get as much yarn dyed as I could, and I'm surprised I actually finished it. I was basically a zombie when I was finished, but everything, it shipped, it's all across the border, everything is perfect. And once again, thank you very much to all of my supporters, but also, like, especially right now, the folks from the United States. I'm so sorry this is happening. But yeah. So that's why I had nothing to show for it. I had no finished objects. I had barely any progress. I'm not entirely sure why I was even trying to film something. But since then, that was about a week and a half ago, I have finished 3 really big knitting projects, and I'm very excited. Most of the things that I've finished are going to be gifts for Christmas, so I'm feeling really on the ball. But I'm very happy to have these done because it's kind of cleared off my plate a little bit when it comes to my projects. I was getting a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of projects that I had sitting around my side of the couch, but now that's basically dwindled down to 2. So before I get into my finished projects, I am going to just say what I'm wearing. This is the Cumulus tee. This is a pattern by Petite Knit. I'm sure everybody has seen it before. I knit this in the beginning of the summer, and I absolutely adore it. I have worn it to death. I have yarn to make a couple more, and I need them because this is such a recognizable color. I feel like, you know, I wear the clothes that I have until they're raggedy. I'm very much that way. I don't have very many clothes, and I just wear them over and over. But this one, you know, you don't want to go out of the house wearing the same thing all of the time. But this is knit on a 3mm needle with Sanduscar and Tinlina, and yeah, I'm really excited to knit some more. I wear this a lot, and I love the fact that you can just chuck it into the washing machine, and it's been holding up really well, and I'm really enjoying it. Anyway, on to finished objects. Very exciting. It's very exciting. I'm very excited. Firstly, I will show you my finished shawl. I haven't had a finished shawl in years and years and years. And this one I cast on because I loved my colors so much, which seems like a really conceited thing to say. But anyway, I finished my Kolorblok by Justyna Lorkowska. This is meant to use 20-gram minis. I had 2 of my 10-gram mini packs that I just stole from my shop because I really liked it. But yeah, it's a Kolorblok, obviously, based on the name, shawl, and it is lovely. So you start here and you do your increases, you do your sections, and then at one point you stop increasing on both sides, and then you only increase on one side, and then this line sort of moves to the side, which makes it into makes it into a triangular shaped shawl. I'm actually really happy. This is really punchy. Like, when it's all finished, it looks really graphic, and I really like that. I don't know how much use I'm gonna get out of it because I'm not particularly good at wearing shawls. I don't know why, because I love the way they look, but yeah, it's all finished. All my ends are woven in, and I knit it on 3.5. I think the pattern calls either for 3.75 or 4. I can't actually remember, but I went down a needle size because I was worried about running out of my yarn, which is something that she does say in the pattern. If you are playing a little bit, if your mini skeins are like exactly 20, or if your gauge is a little bit off, you could run out of yarn. And basically she says to use the first section here to see if you'll have enough yarn with the needle size that you're using. And at the end of my first section, I had enough yarn, but I was very, very, very close to running out. So I just went down a needle size actually after the first section, and you can't tell at all. And I love it. Oh, and this is my Fireside Flannel colorway set. It was a self-striping that I expanded with my minis. And yeah, the only difference besides changing my needle size that I did was I did this spine is supposed to be in garter stitch in the original pattern, and I just purled this one stitch on the wrong side to give it that nice defined spine. And I think it's gorgeous. I really, really like it. I think even as a decorative even as a decorative item in my office, I think it's going to be absolutely lovely. So that is my first finished object. It blocked out really, really easily, and yeah, if you're not afraid of sewing in ends, I had extra ends to sew in because I was using 10 gram minis, but I'm not bothered by that at all. I knit way too many stripy things to be bothered by sewing in my ends. So my second finished object is actually not something I've ever shown on the podcast because I didn't want to show it in case anyone guessed who it was for. And the reason for that is because my little sister Dana, who I do mention on every single episode, she gave birth to her third baby last Wednesday. Another boy, so she has 3 boys now. But she never posted about the fact that she was pregnant anywhere. So, and I never actually asked her if she was keeping it a secret or if she just... I'm not sure. I never actually bothered to ask. So I took that as, don't tell anyone. You know, it's what the cool kids do now. So I just kept it to myself. I had known since December. So it's been a long time making, but I cast this on my birthday in January actually, and I knit another, what is this called? Another baby blanket. A travel mode baby blanket by Susanne Sommer, and this is all finished. I used all leftover yarn. I didn't buy a single skein for this. I wanted this. It was a surprise third baby, so I wanted it to be a sort of scrappy leftover bits. Some of the colors in here are colors that I used in the older 2 boys' blankets. They both have one of these. So I wanted to use leftover, so it's sort of a mishmash of the other 2 blankets with a couple things added in between, and I just think it's so cute. The only one that I ran out of was this yellow, so I just striped in some white. It's almost all entirely Durum Natura Gilead, which is what I knit the first 2 out of. It's what the pattern calls for. The only ones that aren't are actually, so this starting square here, that's Gilead, but then the other 3 triangle blocks are actually some Brooklyn tweed shelter that I had in my stash for so long, and I thought that the colors matched. I ran out of this one in the first one, but the colors matched so well, and it was the same, they're spun the same way, so I just used that instead, and you can barely tell. And then this one here, this is knitting for all of Heavy Merino. So that's Gilead, Heavy Merino, and then that one's Gilead as well. So I only had to add a couple different ones, which is also spun the same way as Gilead and the Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. And I tried my best just to make it as cute as possible. And I think it turned out really, really well. And she has no idea that I was making this because I can have secrets too. I love it. So I knit this on a 5mm needle, which is what the pattern calls for. And then when you do the I-cord edging, it says in the pattern to do a 5.5mm, but I have to go up to a 6 because my row gauge is shorter. So when I'm doing a I-cord, it's too tight when it's on a 5.5. So I just went up to a 6, which this is the third one I've made of this, so it's really easy. This is a modular knit project, so you don't have to sew anything together. You do pick-up stitches, increases, decreases, and all that. This is where I started. And I love this style. I think she's going to love it. I'm glad that all 3 of her kids now will have a baby blanket that I have knit for them. And then there's a couple other things that I really want to make for her, but I'm not going to stress myself out about that. She has hand-me-downs from 2 other little boys, so it's not imperative. And also, it's to the point now where, now that she has 3 boys, or 3 kids in general, it doesn't have to be boys, I'm really into the idea of knitting things for Axton, who's 4, and then they can be worn by all 3 of them now. I want to knit something specifically for the baby because there's, you know, what am I trying to say? They're not to the age yet where the idea of a hand-me-down is like, you know, the worst thing ever. But I still want something to be specifically for the new baby. And I'll get into that later, actually. It's in my plans. But yeah, I'm really wanting to make things that can be worn for years and years, since, you know, if you make it for the baby, they're going to grow out of it in about 3 minutes, and then you're just going to have to hang on to it for sentimental reasons for the rest of your life. So that one's that. I am so glad to have that done and have it ready, and I think it's really cute, and I think she'll really, really like it. My last knitting finished object is probably the biggest. I'm really surprised I finished this, and also, on the other hand, I'm really surprised that it didn't feel like it took that long. But I finished my Brighton sweater by Veronik Avery. And this is what she looks like. So the pattern is written as an all over cabled, like it's a cable texture. It's not like traditional fisherman sweater, but it's just like a textured sort of cable all over. But I knit this instead in just plain stockinette, and I used Drops Nord. And my leftovers here. Knit it in Drops Nord in the colorway 6, which I think is like a dark gray marl or something like that. And I knit this on 3mm needles, and it is for my boyfriend for Christmas, because he doesn't have just a plain stockinette one color sweater. All of his sweaters are color work or all over texture, and then his cardigans are plain, but that's not the same thing. I'm a little bit worried that this is going to be scratchy for him because I don't know how much of a delicate flower he is, but it's a little scratchy, but hopefully he's okay with that. But yeah, this is all knit on 3mm needles with fingering weight yarn, and not a single part of it felt like a slog, which I'm really surprised by. Like, I would knit this again, no problems. But it is a pieced garment, which is one of my favorite things to do. I really like piece garments. I like the structure it gives. I don't mind knitting them. I don't mind sewing them together. It's a V-neck. I don't think I made any changes to this. Like, I followed the instructions as if it were a stockinette garment. The only thing I did was I changed the way that the decreases on the neckline were done, because it was supposed to be a double decrease. So on the edges, like on the sleeves and the body, you do double decreases where you decrease 2 in a row. You can't really see it because it's such a marly sort of fabric, but you would do like a knit 3 together or a slip, slip, slip knit. And for the neckline, because you had to do it every 4th row, I just did a regular decrease every other row, and I think that really makes it a lot smoother on the neckline. And then, again, followed the instructions to the T for all of the ribbings and the neckline. The only thing I did different, which is what I always do differently, I did change. It's a 1x1 rib that I knit instead of a 2x1. I think it was no, the neckline was a 2x1. The rest of them were a 2x2, I think. I just changed everything to a 1x1. The only thing I did different, and it's what I do in all of my garments that have a 1x1 rib, is I knit it from the wrong side. So for things like the sleeve cuffs, these are knit from the bottom up, so I lose hair like crazy. So when I cast on, I did the ribbing in 1x1 rib, and then when I got to the body of the sleeve, I just did a German short row and turned it inside out basically. Because my ribbing is always neater on the wrong side if it's a 1x1. And then I did the same thing on the body. But then when I get to the neckline of things, because this has a pick up stitch neckline, all I do is I pick up my stitches from the right side the way I normally would, but I do it with a really long tail end of my yarn. That way when I'm finished picking up my stitches, I just can turn it inside out and knit from the ball because I use the tail to pick up. And then I just did you do a double decrease or knit two together, slip slip knit to make the V. And I just did that from the purl side. I really hope it fits him. I think it will. I've tried it on and we're basically an inversion of each other. I have really wide hips and a narrow upper body, and he's got like a barrel chest and really wide shoulders, but he's quite narrow at the hips. And this fits me kind of in the way I think that his clothes would fit me, where it's like weirdly loose and baggy at the top, and then it's fitted at my hips. So I really hope he likes it. I have been knitting it in front of him the whole time, and he's never asked because I'm always knitting, so I don't think he really cares. And this was in pieces, so it never really looked like anything. I'm really happy with this. The reason I figured I could do this with changing the pattern is I just got the gauge. It was supposed to be knit on a 3.5 and it had the tight gauge from Cables, and my gauge on a 3mm was just as nice. So this is done. I'm quite happy with this. I, again, honestly wouldn't be surprised if I ended up knitting it again if he likes the fit of it. I ordered a bunch of yarn from the Knitting for Olive UNICEF fundraiser for Gaza, and I got some of their merino, the thinner merino, in a deep petroleum blue that if this one fits him well and he likes it, I wouldn't mind knitting another one in that color as well, because I feel like I could probably get the same gauge. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. Me and 3mm needles are just it's a match made in heaven. I absolutely adore 3mm needles. I don't know why, I just knit so fast with 3mm needles. And yeah, I have 3.5 balls left over, so I'm thinking I was thinking of knitting a muscle burrow hat, but I do worry about the itch factor on the forehead. So I might do maybe half and half, with another yarn, a softer yarn, and then the muscle burrow, or the outside in that, but I'm not sure yet. There's a couple things I could do, but I'm not sure yet. Those are my finished objects that are knitting. I have a few sewing things that I will show at the end in case you're not interested, which is perfectly all right. But now I will move into my works in progress. So I only have one work in progress that's actually had any work done on it that I can show you, because I actually have 4 pairs of socks on my needles right now, and they are samples for my advent calendar colorways. I am so thrilled. I can't remember how much I said about this last time, but I've been developing 4 new self-striping colorways that will be used for an advent calendar. I'll be selling these hopefully at the end of October. I'm really hoping that this shipping situation with the US sorts itself out a little bit by then, but if not, I do apologize. But I've made a new colorway for each of the Sundays before Christmas, which is proper Advent season. I have based them on the seasons, so there is a winter colorway, a spring colorway, a summer colorway, and a fall colorway, and I am so happy with them. it's one of those things where every once in a while, I really like my colorways, obviously, but every once in a while I'll have a collection that just is like exactly what I wanted it to be. I had this with my Mucka collection, I had it with the Fruits collection, and my Lord of the Rings, which I would love to do Return of the King one of these years. I don't know why. That's so hard for me to do, but every once in a while it's exactly what I was hoping for, but these colorways are exactly what I was hoping for. And so I'm working on all those samples, so that's what's on my sock needles. So I've only really worked on this one project. I have one of the advents right here. I'm gonna chuck that over there so you can't see it. And this is my test knit for Soomin. I still don't know. I need to ask her how to pronounce that. This is called the Finch sweater, and it is going to be so glorious. I've not worked on this too much just because I was finishing those 3 other projects, but now I have a lot of time to actively pay attention to this project. But this is what I'm at so far. I've only added 3 stripes, I think, to it. I think it was about here last time. This is an all-over half fisherman's rib, oversized drop shoulder piece of magic. I'm so excited. Oh, it's gonna be so cozy. I am knitting this out of a DK tweed that I've dyed in my Scrappy Quilt colorways. And I'm so delighted. Honestly, I'm almost done. I only have to add 1 more yellow stripe to the bottom, and then I can do the ribbing at the bottom. I think mine's going to be a hair, I'll tell her this as well. Mine's going to be a hair shorter because I'm quite short, and if I knit it to the length that it's supposed to be, it's like 3/5 of my height, basically. So that might be a little bit tunicky, so I'm going to ask if I can just shorten it a little bit, and she's not had any problem with anyone changing things in this pattern. Oh, I just love it so much. I love half fisherman's rib. But yeah, I'm almost done the back, and then I'll be picking up stitches for the fronts. And then after that, when I'm done that, picking up stitches for the sleeves, which aren't very long because it's such a drop shoulder, so that won't take long. So I'm really hoping to have this done by the end of September. The test knit goes until the end of October, so I've got plenty of time, but I would like to have it done in time for cooler weather, which is not right now. It's still very warm and dry. We have had the driest summer ever, I think, in this part of the world. We haven't really had proper rain for almost 2 months, which is ridiculous and alarming. But yeah, by the time that October rolls around, it should be cooler, and I'd really like to wear this. And I love half fisherman's rib so much. It is so squishy and so easy to knit, especially in this type of pattern where it's knit flat. And I love it so much. And then another project that I really want to work on a little bit more is my book club cardigan. I have not touched it since the last time I spoke to you guys. I'm just going to remind you of where I'm at, just so, you know, if I have some progress, it'll actually, you know, you'll remember what it looked like. But this is where I'm at. I've joined the fronts and the back, barely. These rows are very long indeed. And yeah, there's nothing happening with that at the moment. Part of the reason is because both this and my Finch sweater test knit are on 4mm needles, and I only have 1 good set of my interchangeable tips. So I have an Addie interchangeable set, and I have loved that set. I bought it more than 10 years ago. And I always like to say, if you didn't buy your Addies like 10 years ago, they're trash now. I have new tips. I ordered these because I use a 4mm so much. I ordered these as extra tips, and they're trash. They're garbage. I hate them. The texture is weird. They fall off the cable constantly. So they're just on here to hold my stitches, and I never actually knit with them. So I have to transfer my my needles for my Finch sweater to this if I want to work on it. So, but yeah, stick to Chowgu or Haya or whatever. Addies are not consistent. I love the feeling of the needles, but honestly, if I could get Addie tips with Chowgu cables, that would be perfect. But that's not how that works. So, but that just a reminder of what that looks like, and I hope to be working on that for a little while because Marlene from Marlene Knits is going to catch up with me. And it's a race, if you remember, and I can't lose that race. So I have to work on I only have one. Oh no, I do have. So that's the end of my knitting. So if that's all you care about, that's cool. I'm going to move into sewing and some cross stitch really quickly. I did start a new cross stitch project and I love it. I love cross stitch. I'm so glad I found my needle again. But I started this one. It's called Cozy Nest by Nathnolu. There's a series of cross stitch patterns. This one is a crow that's knitting, and then there is an owl that's cross stitching, and then a badger that's reading, I think, and they're all so cute. And I have a space in my bedroom that needs a chair and a lamp and these 3 cross stitches on the wall behind it, and I think it'd be perfect. But this is just so cute. I want to say this is 18 count Ada, but I can't remember if it was 18 or 16. I think it's 18. It's my preferred Ada. And he's beautiful. I love him very much. This is the back, in case you're wondering. Oh, I think it's so cute. I haven't been working very consistently on this. I did like a stint of it, and I got all this done, and then I've been busy working on some sewing projects, but cross stitch is one of those ones for me personally that I never really feel like I'm working on a deadline when it comes to it, because it's really easy to see where you are. There's no confusion. And they'll get done. It's fine. I've had cross stitches that have taken me 3 years so far. It's fine. It doesn't need to be done. But I really want to get the 3 of those done, not in any time soon or anything, because I have chosen, I think I talked about this before, but my December is going to be so filled with advents and countdown calendars, it's going to be actually ridiculous. But I want to do a quilt sort of countdown where I do a block a day, and then I've picked the cross stitch one that I want to do, which is a countdown calendar, and then I have the Cozy Knitter 24 stripe self-striping sock yarn that I keep forgetting that I've ordered. And then, yeah, it's going to be a lot of stuff. But jeez, this is so discombobulated. I have so many things. I have a finished quilt top, the one I was working on before. This is one for my sister, my older sister. She turned 40 this year. But I finished the Holiday Party by Susie Quilts. I'll put in a little video of the whole thing again like I normally do, but she's finished. And I think she's glorious. I hope she likes it. She's kind of an ungrateful brat, but I think she'll like it. You can tell her I said that. But this pattern was so fun to do. I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed making this quilt pattern. And this is the pattern that I'm thinking of doing as a countdown calendar for my quilt project. I'm still not 100% sure yet. I haven't decided on any of the fabrics or anything like that, but I just need to figure that out. We'll see. We'll see. My friend Lori picked up a fat quarter set for me of this really beautiful Christmas fabric. So I'm just going to see if I can squeak out the 25 blocks out of that. And if I can't, I'll pick something else. But if I can, that'll probably be what I end up using. But I'm done this. And then I got some backing just at my local fabric store. And this is what that looks like. I feel like it matches really well with the fabrics, and I wanted the backing of this one to be darker just because it's moodier. And yeah, so I need to get this sent off to my mother-in-law, but I'm waiting to send this off because hopefully I'll have another quilt that I can send to her at the same time, which is one that I'm making for Marlene of Marlene Knits. We are doing a little craft exchange. She is spinning up a sweater quantity of yarn for me, and I, in turn, am making her a quilt. So, we talked about this. We had a little video chat, which is literally the first time I've done a video chat since Skype went down. All through COVID, I managed to never do a video chat. So, Marlene was the first person I did that with. That was just weird and exciting. Anyway, so what we ended up doing, I actually I bought some fiber to try to dye, and I actually have dyed the fiber that she's going to be spinning, so I've mailed that off to her. I'm very excited. I have a couple of ideas of projects that I could use it in, and it'll just depend on what ends up, the thickness that ends up being spun, which I'm not picky about at all, Marlene. Whatever you spin up for me is fantastic. But we chose, I think I'll put a picture because my black and white really doesn't do any justice, but we chose for the quilt, the Cabin Nights quilt by Prairie Quilt Co. I'll put a picture here. And Marlene is a big fan of the Fableism wovens, as am I. I've never made a quilt out of these. It's a little bit more difficult than quilting cotton, because quilting cotton is really densely woven, so it's easier to cut and keep in its shape. But we decided that we were going to make a Fableism wovens quilt top. So that's a pattern. I did one sample block because I just wanted to get a feel for it. And this is the first block of Marlene's quilt. There were a couple hiccups with this one because the first block is always a little bit more difficult, so it's not quite as even as maybe I would like, but I've figured out the places that I need to do things a little bit differently. But other than that, I am quite happy with this, and it's one of those things that I always have to remind myself, if I'm just looking at one block and there's a mistake, once it's a whole quilt top, no one is going to see that, ever. And this is going to look so cute when it's done. It's so, like, all of the colors, there's 25 fat quarters in this. It's quite a lot. And yeah, it's going to look so soft, and it's going to be so dreamy to use, and I'm quite excited. I have, the whole quilt is cut out. My hair is on absolutely everything. Oh my god. The whole quilt is cut out. I starched everything because that's another thing. If you use fabrics like this, it makes it a little bit easier. I pre-washed everything, which is something I never do, but this has a lot of shrinkage in it. Pre-wash, starch, be very careful when you're ironing, basically. But yeah, I think it's going to be very beautiful, and it's really fun. I'd like to get it done and sent off to my mother-in-law by October as well. So I want Marlene to have this for the winter, because I think, you know, you need a nice quilt for your bed in winter. But yeah, so that's my first block. Only 24 more to go. Huzzah. And that is everything I'm working on. Well, everything I could show you. There are a few things. I've cut out a couple more quilts in the last few days. I'm just feeling I want to prep, which is hilarious because I've prepped so many quilts at the beginning of the year that I haven't even gotten to, but that's okay. I made a couple of them. There's nothing wrong with cutting out quilts. Actually, yesterday I cut out a quilt. My sister Dana, she really likes sewing, but she doesn't like the cutting out part, which I get. Most people don't like the cutting out part. And she now has 3 little babies. So I told her that for Christmas I would cut out a quilt for her to sew together. So I actually did cut out another Christmas Joy, which is my favorite. I think do I have that one here? No. It's one of my favorite quilt patterns. It's a particularly easy, it's like, it would be a great first quilt pattern. So I cut that one out for her, and then I actually made all of the half-skirt triangles for her as well, because I didn't want her to get stuck on that part. So I made those for her yesterday, so I'm going to be sending that off. But that's basically what I've been doing, just prep. But there's one thing I do want to cast on soon, and that is a sweater for the new baby. His name is Miles, by the way. And when my sister told me she was pregnant again, I had this vision of a baby sweater that I wanted to make that did not exist. I looked for it. So I thought, okay, there's a couple patterns that I could mishmash together to make this pattern. And then I swear not a month later, someone released a pattern for the sweater that I had in my head. And it's this one right here, which is the Daisy sweater. I don't know why I thought of this, but this is the one I wanted to make. So I bought that pattern as soon as it was released. And it's knit in Santa's Garden Sunday. And I chose these 2 colors for the main portion. So this one will be the main body of the sweater, and then this one will be the petals. And then I have some, good wool from Pearl Soho that I'm going to be using as the center of the flowers, but I think I'm going to be doing that as a duplicate stitch instead of knitting in. But this is what I've decided I want. And this is knit, I think based on the gauge, I'm going to have to use either a 2.75 or a 2.5 millimeter needle to knit this. And it's long float, so I'm going to be doing ladder back jacquard, and I think it's going to be really fun. And I think I'm going to do the 3 to 6 month size. But now that Jason's sweater is off the needles, I have those needles free to knit this if I need a 3 millimeter needle, which is hilarious because now I don't think I do, but we'll see. And I really want to make that for him to wear at Christmas time because I think it's going to be so cute. Because he's going to be 3 months in the beginning of December, I think. Yeah, beginning of December, so I think that'll be so cute. And that's the one sweater for now that I'm going to be making him specifically, so I want to cast that on. It's so cute. So cute. He came out looking exactly like his brothers did. My sister has just given birth to the same baby 3 times, so adorable. Anyways, that is what I'm working on. I wish I could show you the Advent colors, but I can't. Obviously, it's Advent. I'm very happy with them. I'll have more information about the sale of those later on in the year, but for now, if you're interested and if you're in Canada, Australia, or the UK, keep me in mind. All right. That's it for now. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your week, and I will see you next time.